Alright guys, welcome back. As mentioned, I want to start off by establishing some good naming conventions here. So if we go into takes here, I can see we have an unreal take, which we don't need for anything. So a good thing to begin with, it seems pretty trivial, is just delete that. And the take 0, 1, also just get rid of that. Don't need that. It's gonna just clutter the view here down. So let's rename this one. So what this represents for us now is an original take of the square idle animation. So every time I have something which is the original and I have remembered to rotate everything, I rename this to square, and then I try not to do anything about this. So if I need to fall back and pick out a different sequence or something, I can always get it from this take here. And that's pretty useful, I think. Okay, so one other thing you may want to be especially aware of is that right now my file here is called skmannequin.ipy.mb blah blah blah. So you don't want to accidentally say overwrite that one. So make sure you save this. So I'm just going to put this on my desktop for now and call this Ocean Builder 2.1. Okay, so now it only has this one. Okay, so let's continue with some of the other stuff. I'm gonna take you guys through some of the other naming conventions I use, but you can do whatever you like. This is just what I found to be useful. Okay, so in the last video we turned off the story, so let's turn it on again and see if we can find that little section where I'm just idle hanging like this. Yeah, because we need to make a little sequence where I just hang like this, and then make it an idling sequence that we can loop eventually. Okay, so that means that in this video I'm going to show how to isolate smaller bits, and we do that by finding the beginning of the sequence here where I want to say, okay, here I'm just hanging pretty still. So click that and click the eraser tool. That's going to divide this up to 2 and select the first bit here because we don't need that. Then you scrub forward a little bit, see where I start to move. So that seems to be right about here. Here. So once you have a point in time where you think, okay, so that's going to be the idling part, select it again and click the eraser tool again. That's going to divide it in 2 again. So all the last stuff here, we don't really care about that for now. So we're going to hit delete to that. All right. So at this point, I like to make a new take. Okay. So copy the data from the current take to the new take, say no, because we want to reposition everything and then do a few other things. So to begin with, this is kind of floating in midway of the sequence here. So if we type in 0 here, or you can also just drag it over to the beginning, but if it's a long one and you can't really find the 0 frame, it's easier just to type 0. Okay. So with this selected, you can right click this and say frame start and end. And that's gonna make this take match up the number of frames exactly here. Okay, so if we play this again, we now have a sequence which looks like this. And obviously it's not looping right now, and that's not something we will take in, worry about right now. Just so you know, it's expected. Okay, so what I want to do at this point is to plot this back to my plot this to the current take, and then rename this one take 002, so I know what this is. So this is going to be a little part. So I'm going to call this part square idle. So what this means when I look at it is that this is just a partial take. It's not an original, it's something that I'm working on. Maybe it's something I need to combine with something. but it's not a final one. So yeah, you guys right. If it's a final one, I will call this final. Okay. So before I continue, depending on what you need to do and what kind of mocap data you are working with, you may or may not find this relevant at all. But it has something to do with positioning when I need to blend in different takes in between each other. And since this take, for example, has some weird arm positions and they are rotated in a weird way and so on, I need to make some adjustments. But that means that if I take a different section of some of the other takes, I want to match that up. It's gonna require me to make a blend in between these, which is gonna be looking pretty bad, probably. And what I found to be useful in this particular scenario, because it's a climbing thing and I will have certain limbs being stationary at different points in time, is to see if I can establish some kind of framework to where my hands are supposed to be, and then fabricate, I would say, some of the movements from that mocap data. But yeah, because as you can see, the arms are not the exact same height, for example, and that was probably because the hold I'm holding here was a little bit lower or had a different type. Yeah, it was a different type of hold. So all these small details I will have to adjust anyway to make this look really good, I think. Right. So what I want to do here is to create a virtual wall here. I go to the asset browser and I find myself a little cube, and I press R on the keyboard and then expand this out to be something like a wall. That was a very wide wall. I'm just going to scale that up like that. Now we have a wall. Okay, I'm just gonna drag that out of the ground a little bit. So I don't know how big this needs to be, but anyway. So we also need to tilt this a little bit, and I'm looking at the angle. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this one needs to be about 30 something. So what I'm gonna do is to pull this a little bit closer. And it seems to me that I need to swing this up a little bit. So 27 something. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the wall at Copenhagen Boulders was 30 degrees, so maybe it wasn't exactly precise, but seems to be pretty close. Okay, so let's position that wall somewhere near the center. Okay. So the next thing we're going to establish also is where the holes are going to be, and since we want to create some kind of framework where you can move in different directions and so on, what I'm going to do here is to take in another cube, and I'm also going to scale that up and create some kind of bar here, which will represent where the hands are going to be. Okay. So just gonna put that somewhere here. I guess here. So when you rock climb, the contact point is gonna be somewhere here at this point, I would say. Depending on how you climb. If you climb something crimpy, the contact point will actually be out here on the last joint here. But yeah, if you just look at this as a general climbing thing, the contact point is going to be out here and not somewhere in the middle of the hand. So this is going to be okay for now. And I think I'm going to scale this down a little bit. So what I'm going to do next is to take this bar here, and I'm going to copy that, I'm going to paste that, and I'm going to put another bar here at the location of the feet. So I have a kind of a idea if because when I am in the perspective view, sometimes it gets a little bit hard to see if where things are. So use this as a visual guide. See, okay, these feet are not, as I can see, lined up perfectly. Not that they need to, but I can tell from just looking at this location in relative to the bar here. All right, so I'm gonna take this this wall and make a copy of that as well. Drag that over a little bit, and I'm gonna scale that down, something like this, and then I'm gonna establish the crossing here in between this bar here. So it's going to be where the hold is going to be. I'm just going to swing around and see if this is needs to come out a little bit like this. Okay, I'm going to copy and paste that again and move that over a little bit here. That means that we now have some intersections here which will represent where the hold is going to be. Okay, and I'm gonna figure out how to change the color of these. I think I haven't found out yet. I think that's gonna be useful. But that's it for this video, I think. So next we're gonna take a look at how we can repost this this take here, and stay tuned for that. So bye bye.